Today's daf is daf Kuf Samach Zayin. We're continuing to learn detailed laws and rules about a star. So Abaye makes a number of suggestions of the 3 lines from the top of the page. So till now we're learning about it when a star is sort of cryptic, missing a letter, doesn't nominate a sum. So how much do we say it is? Omar Abaye says Abaye, Hi man the boy lemechlich hasimus yodei bebeidina. If somebody wants to show, you can, if you want to verify, certify, say, signatures of Adim, if you don't have the Adim themselves, and you don't have any records to compare it to, you find other people in the city who recognize Adim. So that says the expression mode is they would write down their signature and throw it into the window of the bezin. Let's say the original Adim would write down the signature, and then we would compare and see that this is definitely that person who signed it because they're identical. They're identical. So Haiman the boy Chasimis Yode Bedin. He wants to demonstrate that this is my signature, that this I signed it. So for example, Reuben and Shimon signed on a star, and then Reuben is dead. So you need Adim to come along and testify whose it is. And and Reuben therefore so Reuben, who's going to testify that the only one who really knew that Reuben's signature was Shimon, but Shimon passed away. So therefore what Reuben has to do is he has to sign again in front of Bezin, so then Bezin can say, "Oh, yeah, this is Reuben." We don't know who Reuben is, and we don't know, even though he said this is me. So he signs, and then we compare signatures. Yeah, who ve'edacha we had in the Gemara there. And for himself, he does a signature, a comparison. Says Abaye, if you're going to write a signature on a blank piece of paper to verify, make sure loy lechle b'seiv migilta. Don't put it on the bottom of the page, because if it flies out the other window or if it gets lost, somebody come along. Exactly. Because it's the massive bezuzi, and the guy not only runs, he'll write that you owe him money and that you signed at the bottom like an IOU for your own sake. Don't do that. In other words, you want to sign, do it on the top of the paper, because nobody signs on the top of the paper. But now, and we learned, if somebody produces a piece of paper with your handwriting, especially your signature, that you owe somebody money, then okay, you cannot collect the chashav body because it's not a proper start, but you owe the money. They will go to you and collect money. So be careful. And Mona tells a story. Abaye was very shrewd. Ahub Bazbina, this guy, what do you call it? Ahub Bazbina, he was a tax collector. And now tax collector collect tax from everybody, but if you remember the Ches, we had the Tamid Chachamim don't pay taxes. So this guy went to Abaye and he said to Abaye, I want you to give me your signature, and then you should nominate who the Tamid Chachamim are in your city. I don't know who they are, and if I see your signature, I can compare to what I have in my hands. I know it's not fraudulent, and I know that they're real. So, but the guy's real purpose was to have Abaye's signature on a paper, then he can fill in whatever he wants, and you owe me $1,000. And he would embarrass Abaye. Abaye would have to pay. Imagine Abaye fighting in court for somebody if he owes money not. Zahu Baz Bina doesn't have Abaye. They want you to then give me a sample of your signature. When people come along and say, I'm a turban Rabbanan, they will show me your signature, and therefore I'll let them go through without paying any taxes. Abaye said, okay, and he started to show him Bereish Megilta. He was writing on the top of the scroll. How the Konogabe, the guy was trying to schlep the paper down so that Abaye's signature would end up being on the bottom. Abaye said to him, we're smarter than you. Now, interesting, the Kod Rabbanan was himself. He's the one that came up with this idea. But he talked about himself in third person. So the Rabbanan, they know, like Yaakov, he knows exactly the way of the lovers of the world. We know all the lovers of the world. I want to buy Abaye. Now Abaye gives more advice. If you want to write down, let's say $3, the number 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, you should write never write at the end of the line, because let's say Esek can become Esrin, and Tisha can become, or Taisha can become Tishim, and so on and so forth. So therefore, don't invite these crafty, sly people to go ahead and to deceive you. Oh, but that's too many words. But Tishim is 2 letters. That's 1 word. Yeah, but talk about the end of the line. You can't really put it on. Dilma Mazaiva Kasev. He will forge it, and he'll add something else. But it's only 3 to 10, because you say 11, achad also, let's say, but what can you add afterwards? If you can turn the os into esim, achad esim, that's not how you write. You write echad vi esim. So right away you'll know, that any Rav would know that this is not right. Because Seifim know their stuff. The E is Amalei. What happens to yellow Brady? Because you're writing a star, and boom, the end of the line is where you have to write the number. In the hadil the Buddha titles in. Make sure you write somewhere else in the star again the sum, and make sure that it's end of the middle of the line. So if you write a second time, it's still the end of the line. Write a third time. It's inevitable that you're eventually going to get in the middle of the line, so the guy can't play around with it. And any dying, we'll see. On one place it says 20, another place it says 2. Then you'll know that, and that's the end of the line. You'll know what happened. Now the Gemara will give a few examples how conniving, more than conniving. There's such subterfuge. This is what was written in the star. Tilsa bepardisa. I sold him a third of my orchard. Tilsa bepardisa. What did this guy do? Look at the base. He took the base. He erased the top, the top of the horizontal part of the base. He erased the bottom horizontal part of the base. What do you have left? Above. So now suddenly reads Tilsa vipardisa. I sold you like a third of my whatever my big fields are, plus the entire pardis. All he did was he erased it a little bit. Also, Mochel got the top and the bottom, Bishavi, and he read it upardisa. Now suddenly became upardisa. Also the Kamed Abayah. So it's all about Abayah. Abayah was very, I guess, besides everything else, he's also very street smart. You know how these guys often think. Amalei had a good look at it. He said, something's not right here. Why is there such a gap between the Vav and the word Pardisa? My time the Vav. Why is there such a big gap in the Vav? Kafsei, he tied him down the Oidi, and and the guy eventually admitted that he cheated. I would have a culture, baby. Now this is interesting. There were 3 brothers. One was called Reuben, one was called Shimon, but the third one is called Achi. Interesting name, Achi. And this person bought a share in Reuben and Shimon's Yerusha, but not in Achi's Yerusha. But in the star, it was written Reuben and Shimon Achi, the 2 brothers, Reuben and Shimon. So what he did was he added above Reuben, Shimon, the Achi, that I have a share in all 3. Because the guy's name was Achi, but he added a vav to make him Achi. Without the vav, it's Reuben, Shimon, Achi. Reuben, Shimon, the brothers. But by adding the vav, it's Reuben, Shimon, and the third one, Achi. Achad had a brother, Shmei Achi. Also, because by vav, you added a vav, the Shavia, Achi. Also, coming by you. Okay, before Abaya. In fact, they should have learned the lesson. Go to some other rav, but they went to Abaya. Amalei, he said, yeah, but why would the Gadav go to Abaya? You avoid, a certain judge is a very, very strict judge. You don't go to that judge. You try to avoid him like a plague. My time Why the rules of Volvos is so compressed? It's like photoshopped in. Kofse, he tied him up. Eventually he's made it. Now another story. I guess the Adim don't always remember, especially if you sign a lot of documents. You don't remember the document you sign, and you just sign. So us was written on it. Rava signed on it. The signatures of Rava and of Achabar Ada. Those 2 signatures are Choshev people who were signed on the document. Any others a dispute? Also, Likame de Rava. They came before Rava himself. Malay, he looked at it and he said, wow, Dain Chasim is Yoda to you. It looks exactly like my Chasim. I must have signed it. I don't remember. I never would have signed first and then allowed the Bachar. I had too much dedicated for him. And I always allowed him to sign before me. This must be a fraudulent start. Kofse, so Rava learned from a buyer. He also ties down, but that he was a forger. Interesting now. Amalei said to him, you're a good forger. You know how to forge my name. The rot is yodi, he had like Parkinson's, and his hand was shaking. Hey, how did you make sure that you signed, not only you signed the signature, but you actually shook in the same places like he shook? He said, I'll tell you my craft. I'll tell you my craft. And the yode, I placed my hand on mitzvah. There was a bridge, a rope bridge, and people walk on it. And when they walk on a rope bridge, it's constantly shaking. So when I signed, I put the paper on the rope while people were walking on it. So it was shaking. So that's how I got it. Yeah. Why he's revealing his secrets? A magician generally doesn't reveal their secrets. Anyway, now that he's caught. I placed my hand on this bridge, on this walk bridge, and the rope, and therefore my hand was shaking. But I'm not say come. He placed it as a nuki. There's a pail that you lower down to a well. So he said, I was standing on this pail there in the rope, and then it's constantly moving about. And therefore, my whole body was, because I'm standing on this pail, a bucket with a rope that's hanging into the well, and it's constantly moving to and fro. So my whole body was shaking when I was signing the paper. That's how I did it. Because the Gemara gives you two ways of how to cheat when you want to make your hand shake. Mishnah, continuing to learn the dinim of shtaris. So we already had before that you can write a star to a loiva even though the malva is not there. Because if you're writing a star, the other person's not there, and you're just risking, you're taking the full risk. Then what do we care? If you're going to harm the other, for example, if a malva writes a star that I lent the money to Shimon, a safer not to do that if Shimon was not around, because tomorrow the malva will produce the star and collect from Shimon, and collect from Shimon. So you're what do you call it? You're going to harm Shimon. But if Shimon is writing a star that I owe $100, he wrote already, I owe $100, or Reuben lent me $100, even though Reuben didn't lend the money, Shimon's taking the full risk. If Shimon loses it, that's his problem. So you can always have the person who's taking the full risk can write the star without the other party there. Koisvin get liish, you're permitted to write a get for a husband. Afa pisha ain't ish to ima, even though his wife is out with him. Why? Because a husband can divorce his wife without her consent. He doesn't need her consent, so therefore he doesn't. Why does he need her agreement? This is before Chayim and Geshem, obviously. And you can write a woman who has a ksuba, and when she gets paid the ksuba, she has to give the husband a receipt. If the woman says to her sefer, write me the receipt, I want to have it ready. If she loses it, she lost, because then if the husband finds it, he says, look, I've already paid you out. So if she wants to take the full risk, that's her thing. It's talking about, according to many Mefarshim, that in a place where you don't write ksubas, because otherwise, in a place you do write ksubas, why have a receipt? If your place you write ksubas, the only way, yeah, it's only ksubas. And if you don't have, and the only way to get paid out is you got to return the ksubas to the husband. And if you don't have a ksubas, you're not going to get paid. So what do you need a receipt for? Remember we discussed before, we'll learn later on, the machlekes, if you rely on receipts, because it's not, on one opinion, it's not fair. Why should this person the rest of his life have to have a receipt to make sure that that it's paid off? In the Goyish world, you have a thing called statute of limitations. After 7 years, you can't collect your chayvus. Even though it's 100% you owe the money, it's gone. So therefore, there's a time limit how long you have to retain the receipt or how long you have to do that. And in the Goyish, in halacha, there's no statute of limitations.
What we do have on the borrower that he doesn't have to keep a receipt on the employer.
No, that's going to be machlek if you have to give receipts or not. No, we're talking about a case where the buyer would do is give it back to Shtar Milva, I'll pay you. But the Malva says I lost it. So what happens in that case? The question is, does the leiva? If the opinion that says that the leiva has to pay, then the Malva has to give him a receipt. But now the responsibility is for the leiva is to keep the receipt forever, because there's no statute of limitations. Because what happens, the Malva really does have the star hidden away somewhere, tucked away somewhere, and in 20 years from now he pulls it out. Yeah, and chances are, who keeps receipts for so long? If you do, you remember where they are. Actually, my sister's going through my father's papers now, sub and everything else, but on the box, every bill that they had since they got married,
Electricity bill.
every bill that they had to give everything else. And there's no one told them the law that after 7 years, whatever it was in America, you can't collect any more of these bills. But there we go. Wow. Anyway, it was more than one box. Well, the vachi hey makirin. The only time we'll see in the Gemara, getting the Sheva, the Eidim and the Sefer, especially the Eidim, they have to know who these people are. And we'll see in the Gemara, even the names. But who pays the Baal? Whoever benefits from it is the one who pays the money to the Sefer. You write a start to the leiva again because he's taking full risk. And the malva, but you don't write for the malva. You don't write for the malva unless the leiva is with him. Otherwise, you're going to harm the. Tomorrow the malva will extract his star and say, "You could document to aid him that I lent money to Shimon." But who benefits from this contract? The leiva, because he's now getting a loan. He has to pay all the fees for the cipher and everything else. The Gemara Bava Basra already and all the Shemir, they talk about, Why aren't you worried about the dates? If we allow you to write a start today, which will have an earlier date, and in 6 months from now we'll activate this loan, comes out that the Malva will be collecting properties that were sold between the time that the star was written and the time that was actually happened, and it's not fair in the Lakuchas. And so on. So they have different discussions whether we follow a Bayu who says Eidav Bachasum of Zeicheloi, which means a Bayu holds, and the Gemara has Machlekes. That's the first page of Mitzvah. A Bayu holds as soon as the Eidim signed the star, even before the activity, the catalyst happened, the star already activated everything that has to happen. Eidav Bachasum of Zeicheloi. Or we have other answers in the Gemara there. How it works. A seller can write a study even though the buyer is not there. Don't write to a buyer if the seller is not there, because then tomorrow the buyer will produce the charge. You see, I bought it for you, the property. Again, we only write for the person that has everything to lose and nothing to gain, not the other way around. And again, who pays all the dues? The lekech. Ein koisvin. The buyer, because he benefits. Ein koisin study Edison in the Suyin. When it comes to start Edison in the Suyin, when it comes to the Edison, it's basically who's negotiating. We had Ksubis. It's the parents. How much nadin you giving? Who's paying? And so on. So the contracts that were made, and we also talked there about Hein Dvora Niktim because that you want the shidduch to go forward. So anyway, you don't write a star Edison in the Suyin unless both of them are there. How much, the dowries and all that. Because there it harms both. They both have to commit themselves. And but when what's the star we're talking about in the Suyin? We're talking about the Ksubah. The Chassan is the one who pays the money for that. Ain't kaisrin star arisha the kablanus, when you have a star oris where I get a half, a third, or a quarter, whatever, or a kablanus says where we fix an amount every year. I will give you 50, let's say, bushels of wheat, regardless if I had a good yield, I had a bad yield. It's kablanus, a fixed amount every year, so that's my share, and the rest goes to you. Elamadash only if they both agree. Moral to all these things. I'm a kabel neisaschar. Again, the beneficiary is the one who has to pay. Ein kaisen stari berudin, this is by the Torah, the star bidder, which we'll talk about later. You don't write the star bidder. The chom massive bezin, any other kind of a contract the bezin puts out. For example, psak din, the bezin gives rights to the lender to go ahead and seize property from the shkola drachta, to go and seize property from the defendant. These things, elamadash name. You don't write unless the sefer, unless they both of the plaintiff and the defendant. Ushneim neisaschar. And here, because this is a Maisa Bezin, they both have to pay. And I'm going to say why. Rav Shimon Megamliel says, no, you write Lishneim, you write two different you write each one separately, and we'll see in the Gemara later why. By Psak Bezin, the Edom have to write two different stars. Said the Gemara, my bavache, my kid, you said that you should know, but when you write, let's say a get or a sheva, you should know them. So we know who. Make sure that these are the right people. Common adds even more than that. Not enough to know that you. Oh, I know you. You see you in shul every day. It's not enough. So initially, Mara says you need to know the name of the man in the get, because we are worried that maybe he makes up a name and he's really making it. He likes this other woman. He's really pretending as if he's somebody else. The name. And then this woman tomorrow can pull out a get. See, I received the get with two Adim, with my husband's name. That's my name. So therefore, we need to make sure that we know his name. And same thing when it comes to a receipt, we need to know that the name of the woman. Otherwise, it will be maybe some other. You'll make up a name of a woman, and really you're helping this other woman out to give a shaver to her husband, and you say. So you're helping out this other husband that some other man, who with a wife, and you make up the name of the wife, and she makes up the name. Sorry, she makes up the name of some other woman to help her out, that she can, or help out the man of that thing, so she can later maybe have a relationship with that man, because she just saved him giving a tribute to his wife, because she will make a receipt and make up her name as Leah, which is not really her name, but somebody else's name. And now that real Leah is not going to get paid out. Doesn't have to pay anything. Yosef Safra Bacha Rabbi Bachin and Yosef Abai Gabai. Well, and all these people about Safra Rabbi Bachin and Abai was sitting. The Yosef Gabai like shame each beget in shame each aloi. One not the same one. Just like you can trick and make believe. You're saying you have to know the name of the man in the get, right? To make sure that he's not doing it. Helping out some other woman as if he's other man. Same thing the other way around. You have to also know the name. Make sure that you know the name of the wife that he's divorcing. That it's actually his wife. He's not doing it to help some other woman out that she should be free and be able to remarry. And shemish shalai, and shemish v'shaver you could cheat both ways. Why don't you worry that he'll write a get and he'll give it to some other woman? If we don't know that his wife's real name, he makes up a name. It's really some other woman out there, and he's helping her out. And now she's a free woman. She can marry him as she wants. That what sometimes and a shaver. Same thing with a shaver. If he doesn't know the name of the husband, if we don't know the name of the husband, let's say we know her name, but we don't know the name of her husband, then we can she can make another name. I'm giving a receipt supposedly to my husband. Really, it's some other man's name who has a wife like her name, and some other man's name, and therefore that now she can have a relation with that guy because he said I pay you off my ksuba, I don't have to pay more money. I have money now. The other guy would have to delay and give it to some other man. I will buy you right. We need to know the name of the man on the get, but so too we need to know the name of the woman. We need to know the name of the woman in the shaver. Who are the same man? Even if we know their names, okay. So let's say this is for whatever reason we always do this. We always use the names Yosef ben Shimon. I'm not sure what the origin of why put that name Yosef. Who was Yosef ben Shimon? Why don't you usually use the others? Reuben ben Yaakov. Which is what the Rashbam says, for example, his real name was Reuben ben Yaakov. We'll see this. So we'll say, okay, let's say we know his name. How does that help? Maybe there's another person in the city who has his name and a wife, Yosef ben Shimon who's married to Rachel, another Yosef ben Shimon married to Rachel, and therefore they can still cheat because they're helping out this whoever it is the get. He's helping out this other woman that he'll then give it to her and she'll say, oh, see, I was divorced from my husband. If you're worried about cheaters, like double ain't stuff. How are you going to stop it? The Leichus want you were the Shnei Yosef ben Shimon Hadari Birach is living in one city. At Dilma Kosev Gita, he'll write a get as if it's to his own wife, and then and then he really likes the other woman there. He'll give it to that woman there, the other Yosef ben Shimon, and now she'll be a free woman, and then he can marry a second wife, whatever. Oh, she gave him money. When we have a situation of two and we do our homework, Shnei Yosef ben Shimon Hadorim Be'ir Achas. If you have two people in the same city, known as Yosef ben Shimon, Ein Megarshin Shesein. The only way they can divorce their wives, Elazeh Bifnei Zeh. You need to invite both Yosef ben Shimon and Rachel, and then in front of the bezin, the real one of them stands up and gives whoever it is to get to his wife, and therefore there's nothing, no shash or cheating, because we now be so clearly what happened. Don't matter. Only if the wives are the same, otherwise there's no problem. If you're worried about cheaters, let's say so this guy has a whole plan, right? He wants to help this woman out, Yosef ben Shimon and Rachel. So he'll go to another town, live there with his wife, and his wife doesn't know that she's going. His real name is Reuben ben Yaakov. She doesn't know what he's doing, and he tells everybody wherever he goes to job, my name is Yosef ben Shimon. He's there for a while. He established his name. Then he moves into this city here. And now he's like, and he'll make a get there because there's only one Yosef. There's no one else in that city called Yosef ben Shimon. He'll go to another city because of Gita. They'll come into this town with already a get that was already produced. Once you live with a name, a pseudonym for 30 days, we believe that that's your real name. It's hard to walk around with someone else's name for a long time. So if he did that, he's taking his name ben Yosef. So he's not cheating. What happens if, let's say, we don't know. Let's say he wasn't there for 30 days, so he doesn't really have a chazaka for his name. How do we know what his real name is? Amr Abaye says Abaye the korulei va'ani. You know what you do? He's not around, so you call it Yankel and see if it turns around or not. Now, if it's not his real name, it's not your initial, your first reaction. Then we'll know if that's really him or not. Ja, soll ich mal weiter? A guy who's a liar is always vigilant. And if he hears his name, he'll right away turn around. There's a beautiful story where there was somebody's phone ringing. There's a beautiful story about there's two friends, and they were safe from the Holocaust, and they were two were safe from the Holocaust, and they were in this DP camp, and they were trying to get visas. Anyone will take them. They really wanted to go to Canada, get a visa to go to Canada, and 2 or 3 years went by, and finally one of them got a visa. Imagine the joy. Now, I don't remember the name, so I'm going to make it up. So he came back. He just went to the embassy, whatever it is. He went back to the camp, and he told his friend, "We'll call him Chaim Marovich." It's not a real. I can't remember his real name, so I can't. I'm just making it up. So his name is Chaim Marovich, and he tells his friend it was Meir Eberbach. Meir, I just got wonderful news. I got a visa to Canada, so maybe you'll get one soon. And suddenly Meir's face dropped, and he said, "I'm not getting a visa because they found out I have tuberculosis." And even today, when you go to countries that ask you, if you have tuberculosis, they don't want you. That's the main disease that to Australia. They won't let you in. I'm not getting a visa anywhere. So Ferguson to hate. He felt so bad. And there's no pictures those days on these visas. He says this, he thought about it. He says, you know what? Take my visa. You call yourself from now on Chaim Mairovich. I'll take your name. Meir Eilbach. You go to Canada. I'm sure I'll get a visa somewhere. I'm a healthy person. Anyway, eventually he got a visa also to Canada, and he moves to Canada, and he's on all his documents. He's Chaim. What do you call it? He's Meir Eilbach. That's all his documents. Anyway, so years go by. He became very successful. He had a family and Einiklach. It bothered him every day when people call him Meir, and he was Chaim, but he couldn't say anything. So he was a Vision Chassid. So he went to the Vision Rebbe in the '60s, so he went to him and he told him this whole Maisa, and he said, "I can't take this anymore. I want to get back my name. Can I do that?" So the Vision Rebbe told him the following. He said, "Every time someone calls you Meir instead of your name Chaim, the Abisher remembers the Mesiris Nefesh. They're unbelievable. So you gave away your visa. You had no idea you'll ever get accepted anywhere else. Why deny the Abisher his nachas?" Anyway, so about name. Ahu Tavra, there was a star that was Rabbi Rabba. There was a star that was signed by Rabbi Rabba. Also, Kameh Itza. Rabbi Rabba signed on the document. He was an agent. Also, the Kameh Itza. That woman that he signed on a divorce came to him. I guess to remember whatever it is, and Omrolei Lav Amnahavoy, and she said, "No, whatever that document is, it wasn't me." It wasn't me. For example, we're talking about a receipt of a ksula. It was a receipt of a ksula, and it was signed that she received the ksula. So then she said, "Yeah, it wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. You signed a document, but it wasn't me. That woman who came to you and asked you to give a receipt for my husband, it wasn't me. So in other words, I didn't get paid out my ksula yet." Omar. So then Rabbi made a comment. I also said, because a few years later, I don't recognize you. Itaka wasn't you. I agree with you. But and they told me it was her. But Mekish Hudikashale Ubagalakola, that she is older, and her voice changed a little bit as well. No, he even recognized the face. He didn't even look at her, maybe, but the voice. But there's also a way of recognizing. And her voice changed, became more mature. Amar Abai says Abai says, once Rabbi said it's not her, he said, I turned around, I said it's not her. No, it's my signature. What I signed wasn't for her. So he disqualified that receipt with the husband produced, and the husband has to pay again to the woman. But when it comes to a Talmud Chacham, Lav urchel meida. He is not that particular on looking at the woman to see whether he knows the woman, and therefore we understand why he initially said this is not her. He had a very faint look at her. You understand why he said her, and therefore this is not a case of kivin shehigit. He's not saying one age is another. It is when he said it's not her. It wasn't really an aegis. He wasn't really that medactic. As the Rashbam says, he doesn't look and analyze and make sure that it's printed on his face what she looked like. So when he said that's not really her, it wasn't an Adis. He was just like, oh yeah, he was moved from Mayel Haza. He didn't know, as we'll see in tomorrow's Gemara. Beautiful Gemara tomorrow. So Gemara right. There was another one that he was signed on it. Again, there was a receipt for Ksuba. And again, she said, look, it wasn't me. Amala Ibra Antu. No, I know that it was you. I know that it was you. I recognize you. I know that it was you that asked us to sign this receipt, and therefore we signed properly. You already got paid. You're trying to get paid a second time. You said you. Says the Gemara, I have Abaye then made a comment. Generally, Tamil Chachamim don't look so much at women, but the kiva the duck. But if he says he did, he did. And I would think that this story followed the previous story. Once he learned already his lesson, if you sign a document for a woman, make sure you know who you're signing for. So therefore, when he said the second time, yes, I know that this is you, he did it. He made sure that he remembers. Therefore, we trust him. Continue tomorrow in Mitzvah Hashem.